Hey everyone, and welcome to another deep dive. This time we're tackling some of the juiciest conspiracy theories out there: UFOs, flat Earth, and of course government cover-ups. We'll be using the Conspiracy Files, Fact versus Fiction podcast as our guide, to see if there's any truth to these wild ideas.
Yeah, it's amazing how some of these theories, even the really out there ones, just stick around. Like they capture people's imaginations. So we'll be looking at that and we'll see if there's any actual evidence to back them up.
Right. Okay, so let's kick things off with a classic, the Pentagon's super secret UFO program. Remember that New York Times article back in 2017 about the AATIP, the Advanced Aerospace Threat Identification Program? That really got people buzzing about UFOs again.
Yeah, it did. But the government's been looking into UFOs or UAPs, unidentified aerial phenomena, as they call them now, since like the 1950s. So this AATIP program, it was really just part of this long history of trying to figure out what's up there in the sky.
But this time felt different. I mean, the former head of AATIP, Luis Elizondo, he resigned, right? And he said something like, "This is bigger than you know." How can you not be intrigued by that?
Oh, yeah. Elizondo's resignation definitely threw gasoline on the conspiracy fire. And then you have those Navy videos, Gimbal and Go Fast, showing these objects moving in ways that, well, they just don't seem possible.
Okay, so those videos, what are some of the explanations? Are we talking about alien spaceships? What's the evidence?
Well, the Pentagon says most of these UAP sightings are just normal things. Drones,
Yeah.
weather balloons, even just camera glitches. They even say that some of those weird movements could be because of how the cameras work. And there was a NASA report in 2023, I think, that basically said there's no proof of aliens. They said there are just not enough good sightings to know for sure.
So they say they've explained a lot of the sightings, but not all of them. Something like 5% are still unidentified? Yeah. What about those? Did that mean something really crazy is going on?
Well, here's where critical thinking is important. Just because we can't explain something right now, it doesn't automatically mean it's aliens. Think about the flying saucer craze in the 50s. People were convinced they were seeing alien spaceships, but it turned out to be spy planes, just secret technology that seemed impossible at the time.
Wow, that's a really good point. So could the government be hiding something? Not aliens, but like super advanced technology that they don't want anyone else to know about. That would explain why they're so quiet about those unexplained cases.
It's possible, definitely. I mean, think about how much technology has changed in the last, 20 years. Imagine what they might have in secret labs that's even more advanced.
Like that Roswell incident. People thought it was an alien spacecraft for so long, but it was a weather balloon.
Right. It shows how badly we want to believe in something extraordinary. We love those big, crazy discoveries.
Speaking of believing in the extraordinary, let's move on to a theory that, well, it's pretty hard to believe: the flat Earth theory. It's wild that in this day and age, with all the technology we have, people still think the Earth is flat. Why do you think people hold on to that belief?
I think it's a few things. Some of their arguments sound kind of convincing if you don't think about them too hard. Like, they say, if the Earth is spinning so fast, over 1,000 miles an hour, why don't we feel it?
Oh, and they always ask, if the Earth is round, why does the horizon look slat? It's like they think we live on a giant pancake or something. I've even heard some say gravity is fake.
Yeah, and of course science has proven all of that wrong. We don't feel the Earth spinning because of gravity. Gravity pulls everything towards the center of the Earth, and the atmosphere spins with the Earth, so we're all moving together. If the Earth was actually flat, gravity would be totally different.
Okay, that makes sense, but what about the flat horizon?
That's all about perspective. The Earth curves gradually, so you don't always see it when you're looking at it. Like, imagine a giant beach ball. If you look at a small section of it, it might look flat, even though the whole ball is round.
I like that. So a flat horizon doesn't disprove the Earth's curvature. It just means you need to see it from farther away.
Exactly. And think about all the technology that wouldn't work if the Earth was flat. GPS, satellites, time zones, they all rely on a round Earth.
You would think that would be enough to convince people, but then you have flat earthers doing these experiments that they say prove their point, like shining lasers across long distances. How can they look at those results and think the Earth is flat?
Most of the time, they're just misinterpreting the results, sometimes on purpose, sometimes not. Many of those experiments actually do show the Earth's curvature, even if they don't want to admit it.
It's interesting how much our own beliefs can affect how we see things, even when the evidence says something else. Speaking of beliefs and hidden truths, let's switch gears and talk about government cover-ups. Are they all just conspiracy theories? Or are there real cases where the government has hidden things from the public?
Oh, there are definitely real government cover-ups, like the CIA's MKUltra project. That was messed up. They experimented with mind control and LSD on people without them knowing. And the Tuskegee syphilis study, where they didn't give treatment to African American men with syphilis for decades, all in the name of research.
Wow, that's some seriously dark stuff. It makes you wonder what else they might be hiding.
It does, doesn't it? And while there are events like the JFK assassination that have lots of unanswered questions, not every tragedy is a conspiracy. Sometimes the truth is just, well, it's just normal and maybe even a little boring.
So how do we tell the difference between real conspiracies and fake ones? What should make us stop and say, wait a minute, I need to look into this more carefully?
Yeah, that's the big question, right? How do you know what to believe? Well, you gotta look for evidence. Real conspiracies, they usually leave a trail. Documents, whistleblowers, people who back up the story. Look for facts, not just feelings or opinions.
So if someone's saying like, do your own research, but they don't give you any sources, that's a bad sign.
Yeah, totally. Do your own research sounds good, but sometimes it's just an excuse for not having proof. Real researchers will give you sources, so you can check things out for yourself.
Makes sense. Like if someone says, there's a fire down the street versus there's a fire at 123 Main Street, I saw it, here's a photo.
Exactly. Details are important. And be careful about stuff that comes from anonymous sources or videos that haven't been verified. It's easy to make stuff up when you're hiding.
It's about finding the real facts, the pieces that fit together and make sense. And if something sounds too crazy to be true, well, it probably is.
Some skepticism is always good. But it doesn't mean you shouldn't believe anything. It just means you should be careful and ask questions and look for proof.
Like we were talking about earlier, just because we can't explain something, it doesn't mean it's aliens or ghosts or something. There might be a normal explanation that we just haven't figured out yet.
Right. Our understanding of the universe is always changing. What seems like magic now could be normal in the future.
Like that quote, any sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic. Maybe those UFOs are just technology from the future.
Now, that's an interesting thought. It just goes to show it's important to stay curious, to be open to new ideas, but also to be grounded in facts and critical thinking.
Speaking of curiosity, let's go back to Flat Earth for a minute. We said some of their arguments sound good at first, but they don't really hold up. Can you give us an example? Like a Flat Earth experiment that doesn't actually prove what they say it does.
Sure. One of the most famous ones is the Bedford level experiment. It was done in the 1800s, and flat earthers say it proves the Earth is flat. But actually, it proves the opposite.
Okay, so what did they do in this Bedford level experiment?
Well, they put flags along a canal about 6 miles long. They said if the Earth is curved, the flag farthest away should look lower than the others because of the curve, but all the flags look the same height. So they said, see, the Earth is flat.
But that's not right.
Nope. They forgot about something called atmospheric refraction. That's when light bends as it goes through the air. So the light from the faraway flag was bent, making it look higher than it really was.
So they didn't prove the Earth is flat, they just proved how light works.
Exactly. And that happens a lot with flat Earth experiments. They either don't understand the results or they ignore things that don't fit their theory.
Which is why peer review and scientific consensus are so important. If these experiments were really true, other scientists would be able to do them and get the same results.
You got it. Science is all about working together. If you make a huge claim, you need huge proof, and other experts need to be able to check it.
It's not enough to just do an experiment by yourself. You got to share it, show everyone how you did it so they can try it too.
That's a big difference between real science and, well, fake science. Fake science usually doesn't want to be checked by other experts. They just want to believe what they believe, even if there's no proof.
Okay, so we've talked about evidence, thinking critically, finding good sources. But what can our listeners do to get better at spotting fake news and not falling for conspiracy theories? Any practical advice?
That's a good question. I think the most important thing is to know your own biases. Everyone has them. They're like these little filters that change how you see the world. If you find yourself believing something, even when there's evidence against it, ask yourself why. Maybe you're emotionally attached to that belief, or maybe it makes you uncomfortable to think about other possibilities.
So, like, check yourself before you wreck yourself.
Yeah, something like that. Be honest with yourself and accept that you might be wrong sometimes. Everyone is.
It's good to be humble, isn't it? Especially these days when everyone has an opinion and thinks they're right.
Oh, yeah. Humility is so important. And also, be skeptical. Don't just believe everything you hear. Ask questions. Look for proof. Try to see things from different points of view.
Get out of your own little bubble, right? Talk to people who disagree with you. See if you can learn something new.
That's it. It's so easy to just listen to people who agree with you, but that doesn't help you learn. You learn the most when you talk to people who think differently.
If you're the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong room.
Oh, I like that. And remember, it's okay to change your mind. It means you're growing. If you find out new information that proves you wrong, that's awesome. It means you're learning and getting closer to the truth.
That's a great point. We should never stop learning, right? The world's always changing, and we need to keep up.
You got it. The world is a crazy, complicated place, and there's always more to learn. The more you know, the better you'll be able to deal with whatever comes your way.
It's like we're all detectives in a way, right? Trying to figure out what's really going on, using our brains, and not just believing everything we hear. But let's be real, some of these conspiracy theories are just fun to think about, even if we know they're probably not true.
Oh, for sure. There's something exciting about mysteries. You know, the idea that there might be something bigger out there that we don't understand yet.
It's like watching a good movie. You know it's not real, but you still get caught up in the story and all the twists and turns.
Exactly. And I think that's why people love conspiracy theories. They make you feel like you're in on a secret, like you know something that most people don't.
But like we've been saying, it's important to be careful. Don't just jump on every conspiracy bandwagon that comes along.
Right. You have to use your head. You can be curious and excited about these things without losing your critical thinking skills.
So we've talked about UFOs, flat Earth, government cover-ups. What are the big things you hope people remember from this deep dive?
Well, I hope they remember that critical thinking is super important these days. Especially with all the information out there on the internet, it's easy to get lost in echo chambers and just believe whatever you want to believe. So always question things, look for evidence, and be willing to change your mind if you find out you're wrong.
And sometimes the truth is a lot simpler than we think it is.
Oh, absolutely. Sometimes the most amazing discoveries are right there in front of us in books or scientific studies. You don't always have to go looking for secret government conspiracies to find something fascinating.
Well said. So, to all our listeners out there, keep exploring, keep asking questions, and if you find any cool conspiracy theories, let us know.
Yeah. We're always looking for new stuff to talk about.
Until then, stay curious, stay skeptical, and remember, the truth is out there. But sometimes you have to work a little to find